Like, I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes.
Yeah.
But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But, you know, I mean, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for it to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat.
Cheryl Miller has just shattered the silence, saying exactly what millions of fans have been thinking for months. In her unfiltered view, Team USA never actually wanted Caitlin Clark, and this basketball legend didn't mince words when she explained precisely why. As you can imagine, the entire internet absolutely erupted within minutes of her comments going live. Cheryl laid bare the ugly truth about the internal politics, the simmering jealousy, and what she sees as a deliberate, calculated campaign to keep Caitlin Clark firmly in her place. This isn't just commentary, it's the reality check that the entire sport and its fans desperately needed to hear. But before we dive deep into Cheryl's absolutely explosive breakdown, I have to ask you, drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you believe Team USA is intentionally trying to sideline Caitlin and hold her back? Or do you think this is all just a massive, unfortunate coincidence? Seriously, I need to hear what you think is really going on here.
Sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is and how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative.
Cheryl Miller didn't whisper her concerns, she didn't dance around the subject or try to hint at what she meant, and she certainly didn't use that carefully crafted, corporate-approved language designed to avoid ruffling any feathers. No, she went on the record, loud and clear, and declared exactly what millions of basketball fans have been screaming at their screens for what feels like an eternity. The message was unmistakable. Caitlin Clark is being intentionally held back by the very people and the very institutions that should be lifting her up and celebrating her phenomenal talent. And you have to understand, when a voice like Cheryl Miller speaks, the entire world of basketball stops and listens. This isn't some random talking head on a sports show chasing clicks and generating outrage. This is a true basketball icon, a Hall of Famer, someone who knows from firsthand experience what it's like to be the biggest name in the women's game and to face intense resistance because of that status. Her words were both direct and absolutely devastating. She said, and I quote, "Caitlin Clark changed basketball, and that is exactly why they fear her." Just let that statement sink in for a moment. Not that they're jealous of her, or that they simply don't grasp her cultural impact. The word she used was fear. They fear what she represents. They fear the unbelievable speed of her ascent. They fear that she didn't follow their carefully laid out script or rise up through their preferred system. And maybe most critically, they fear that she has already become bigger than the institution itself.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
Let's talk about the best coaching job. From the very first day she stepped onto a professional court, Caitlin brought a powerful force to women's basketball that the sport had been desperately, achingly lacking for years. Mainstream, must-see attention. We're talking about television ratings that leagues can only dream of. We're talking about completely sold-out arenas, not just at home but on the road, everywhere she went. She single-handedly brought in families who had never in their entire lives watched a WNBA game, but were now tuning in religiously just to witness the phenomenon and see what all the hype was about. She transformed women's basketball into appointment viewing for millions of people across the globe. And what did she receive in return for this incredible contribution? A relentless barrage of hard fouls with seemingly no consequences for the perpetrators. She faced suspicious substitution patterns, where she would be inexplicably benched at the most crucial moments of a game. She received absolutely zero protection from officials when it was clear as day that opponents were specifically targeting her. And of course there was the infamous elbow incident that somehow, bafflingly, wasn't considered a flagrant foul. All of this was met with excuse after excuse after excuse from those in charge.
The fact that if I'm insecure, if I've got my own mental issues going on, who do I talk to? I don't regret being born when I was.
Right.
I'm in the right place at the right time. It's just been fascinating to watch these young ladies come up and now take the baton and take it to a different level.
She handled it in a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Cheryl Miller finally gave voice to the one thing that nobody with a stake in Team USA seemed to have the courage to admit publicly. They don't want Caitlin because her star power completely overshadows everyone else. This wasn't just speculation or an attempt to read between the lines. Cheryl laid it out in the plainest terms possible. She explained that every single time a young superstar emerges who threatens the established hierarchy, every time an individual becomes bigger than the very system that is supposed to contain and control them, that system will inevitably push back hard. As Cheryl put it, it's not even a personal attack, it's an institutional defense mechanism. And Caitlin Clark didn't just become big, she became the undisputed global face of basketball at the young age of 20. That is the fundamental threat. That's precisely what makes the old guard so deeply uncomfortable. According to Cheryl, this isn't just her opinion. This is a conclusion based on years and years of behavior she has personally witnessed throughout as her storied career and continues to see playing out today. The pattern, she says, is maddeningly consistent. Team USA, much like many long-standing organizations, functions with a rigid, unspoken hierarchy. There is an order to things. Rookies are expected to pay their dues, veterans receive preferential treatment, and you are supposed to earn your spot gradually by working your way up through the system. But Caitlin, she blew past all of that. She arrived on the scene already famous, already a massive influencer, and already carrying more cultural weight and significance than players who had been grinding in the league for over a decade. That kind of meteoric rise fundamentally disrupts the natural order. And that disruption makes people incredibly defensive.
In a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
And I used, and Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I can't fault her for what she was given. But, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Now everybody has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat at this table. Cheryl pointed out something absolutely crucial that countless fans have sensed, but maybe couldn't quite put into words. The internal politics of Team USA are directly connected to the same political games we see playing out in the WNBA day in and day out. Favoritism is real. Power circles and cliques absolutely exist. Veteran loyalty is a powerful, often blinding force. There are deep-seated internal dynamics that dictate who gets the prime opportunities and who gets left behind. And within that rigid structure, there is very little room for a new, shining star who wasn't built and molded by their system. You see, Caitlin wasn't developed through the USA basketball youth programs. She didn't climb the ladder through their established pipeline. She didn't follow their predetermined, approved path to stardom. She exploded onto the scene from Iowa, bringing her own massive, pre-existing fan base with her, her own powerful spotlight already shining brightly, and her own compelling narrative already written. This posed a direct threat to the people who are accustomed to controlling those narratives. And here is where Cheryl really dropped the hammer. She stated that she believes Team USA had already made up its mind about Caitlin months before any official roster discussions even took place. The game plan was clear from the very beginning. Protect the veterans, keep the old guard positioned as the face of the program. And under no circumstances, let a newcomer get the keys to the kingdom so quickly. Caitlin Clark was never, ever going to be welcomed with open arms. The plan was to manage her, to control her, to keep her quiet, and to handle her like a problem that needed to be solved rather than a generational talent that should be embraced and celebrated. But Caitlin didn't play by those unspoken, political rules. She just played basketball the exact same way the entire world fell in love with her. And that's precisely when things got so complicated for the leadership of Team USA. Cheryl then exposed what she believes is their real, deepest fear. They were absolutely terrified that Caitlin would become the undisputed star of Team USA before the Olympics even began. Just think about that for a second. The possibility of a 22-year-old player outdrawing 10-year veterans in ratings and global attention. A single athlete generating more buzz, more highlight reels, and more discussion than the entire rest of the roster combined. More social media engagement, more merchandise sales, more mainstream media coverage. Team USA simply wasn't ready for that reality, and their system certainly wasn't designed to accommodate it. So instead of embracing this incredible opportunity and building the program around their most marketable and talented player, they pushed back. And the fans noticed every single detail. The cold body language from certain teammates, the bizarre rotations that made zero basketball sense, the unnecessarily hard fouls that were consistently ignored or downplayed as common when they were clearly flagrant, the constant, nitpicking criticism for things that other players were actively praised for doing. The double standards were so glaring they were impossible to ignore. Cheryl said something that just hit so hard. You don't treat the most impactful young player in basketball like this unless you're trying to send a message. And what is that message? Stay in your lane. Know your place. Don't climb the ladder too fast. Don't you dare outshine the people we've already anointed as the faces of this program. Don't disrupt the hierarchy we've spent years carefully building, but Caitlin just kept climbing anyway. Every game brought another mind-blowing performance. Every logo three that somehow swished through the net. Every unbelievable no-look pass that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Every sold-out arena chanting her name. Every viral highlight that took over social media for days on end. And each time she rose higher, the resistance from within only seemed to intensify. Cheryl revealed what so many had suspected but few in a position of power would dare to say publicly. Caitlin Clark is being punished for being great, not for being a difficult teammate, not for being problematic, not for breaking rules or stirring up drama. She's being punished for being undeniably, historically, generationally great at the game of basketball. And that level of greatness makes people deeply uncomfortable when it doesn't fit neatly into their predetermined plan. Millions of fans felt this in their gut throughout the entire season. Parents watching at home with their kids felt it. The young girls who look up to Caitlin as a hero definitely felt it. Even NBA players noticed and were tweeting about the obvious targeting and the shocking lack of protection. But until now, no one from inside the system, no one with the unimpeachable credibility and platform of Cheryl Miller, had actually come out and said it so plainly. That is what makes this moment so incredibly significant. Then Cheryl tackled the jersey number controversy, which might seem petty on the surface but actually represents something much, much deeper. She said Team USA handled it horribly. Instead of having a simple, respectful conversation with Caitlin about the situation, instead of making her feel valued and working to find a solution that honored everyone, they made it seem like she was being difficult for wanting something every athlete cherishes: consistency and respect. They made her feel like an inconvenience, as if she were causing trouble by having the audacity to care about the number she has worn her entire career, a number that has become synonymous with her global brand. And that's when fans absolutely lost their minds. Because it confirmed what they had been seeing all along. This was never about logistics, or policies, or standard operating procedures. This was about putting Caitlin in her place. It was about reminding her that she doesn't run things, they do. It was about asserting control over an athlete who had become too powerful too quickly. And Cheryl called it out for exactly what it was. The third bombshell Cheryl dropped was that Team USA was completely divided internally over. Some coaches desperately wanted her on the roster and recognized her immense value. Others didn't want her stealing the spotlight from established players. Some teammates supported her and welcomed the new attention she brought to the sport. Others resented that the media focus was always on one person instead of the team. Some executives loved the ratings explosion and the new sponsor interest. Others hated the media circus and preferred the program to operate quietly, the way it always had. A divided locker room, a rising superstar, and a massive, inescapable spotlight created the perfect storm for dysfunction. This was never about basketball. This was pure politics. And Cheryl's voice reportedly cracked with genuine emotion when she said, "Caitlin Clark plays the game the right way, and she is being punished for it." That single line resonated across the entire basketball community because it so perfectly captured the sheer absurdity and injustice of the whole situation. Here is a player who does everything you could possibly want. She works incredibly hard. She makes her teammates better. She handles her media responsibilities with absolute professionalism. She shows up ready to compete every single game. She doesn't create off-court drama. She represents the sport beautifully. And somehow, she is the one being treated like a problem. Cheryl emphasized that this toxic pattern extended far beyond just Team USA's decisions. This was about the entire season. The brutal fouls that never resulted in suspensions for the offenders, the shoves that were dismissed as incidental contact when they were clearly intentional. The constant targeting that officials somehow never seemed to notice despite it being obvious to every single person watching at home. The blatant disrespect from opponents who felt emboldened to take cheap shots because they knew there would be no real consequences. The jealousy that often manifested in passive-aggressive comments during post-game interviews. The fake narratives pushed by some that she was overrated or only successful because of favorable officiating or weak competition. And through all of it, there was a deafening silence from people in positions of power who should have spoken up to defend her. The WNBA didn't protect her adequately, Team USA didn't prioritize her, and certain media members actively tried to diminish her historic accomplishments. Cheryl Miller watched all of this unfold, and finally decided that enough was enough. Someone with real credibility needed to call it what it was. Someone who understood the complex politics of women's basketball from the inside needed to expose the uncomfortable truth. What makes Cheryl's comments so incredibly powerful is that she has been exactly where Caitlin is now. She was the biggest name in women's basketball during her era. She faced her own version of resistance, jealousy, and people trying to keep her in her place. She understands the unique, crushing pressure that comes with being the face of an entire sport. She knows exactly what it feels like when your own success makes other people uncomfortable, and she is not going to stand by silently while she watches history repeat itself with Caitlin. Cheryl also addressed the broader context that many casual fans might not fully appreciate. She talked about how different the pressure is for this generation of athletes compared to when she played. The relentless social media scrutiny, the massive brand responsibilities, the sky-high financial expectations, the constant public commentary from millions of people, and the immense mental health challenges of living under a microscope. She said today's players are dealing with a level of pressure her generation never had to navigate. And that makes what Caitlin has accomplished even more impressive. But instead of that pressure being acknowledged and supported, Caitlin faced additional obstacles that were completely unnecessary and entirely political. Cheryl made it crystal clear that the resistance Caitlin encountered had absolutely nothing to do with her ability or her character. It was purely about people protecting their own positions, maintaining their control, and flat-out refusing to adapt to a changing landscape where a new star had emerged who was bigger than they were comfortable with. The reaction to Cheryl's comments was immediate and absolutely massive. Social media exploded with people expressing their relief that finally, someone with real credibility was saying what they had been thinking all along. Former players began speaking up, sharing their own observations that confirmed Cheryl's point. Media members who had been hesitant to rock the boat suddenly felt more comfortable discussing the obvious politics at play, and the fans who had felt gaslit for months, being told they were just imagining the targeting and the disrespect, finally felt validated. Team USA officials have been noticeably quiet in response to Cheryl's comments, which is telling in itself. When someone of Cheryl Miller's stature makes allegations this serious, you would expect an immediate forceful denial if they weren't true. The silence suggests there is truth to what she's saying, and they are now scrambling to figure out how to manage the public relations disaster without actually admitting fault. So there you have it. Cheryl Miller said what needed to be said, and the entire basketball world is still reeling from the fallout. Caitlin Clark deserves so much better than the treatment she has received, and thanks to a legend speaking up, now everyone knows it. If you appreciate someone finally speaking truth to power, do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe for more honest basketball coverage. What is your honest reaction to Cheryl's bombshell comments? Drop it in the discussion below.